Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I think we'll get started. I'm talking on the research innovations. I'll add industrialization to this discussion. So I think by now you know me. I'm going to pose a question to you. When you finish your degree program, whether it's a 3 years for BMS, 4 years for others, and 5 years for biomedical engineering, what's the end game? What do you want to do? If you want to be employed by somebody, they will decide how much you are worth. They will give you a certain salary that you are going to be angry with until you die if you continue to work for somebody. If you decide to become an employer, you will decide how much you earn and you will have time to do things that you like. If you go on this website, you will find that I'm said to be a top scientist in the country. I'm also called a professor. And you say, so professor, why are you called a professor? Because I have lots and lots of publications, actually more than 100 publications in non-communicable diseases, particularly hypertension. And then you ask a very simple question. So, Professor, all this research, how has it impacted a grandmother in the rural area or whatever? I will tell you that it has not. But I have very good publications in top journals. Because when I joined the university many years ago, the language was publish or perish. So publish your research findings or perish. So if you published your research findings, you'll be promoted within the university and ultimate becoming what is called a full professor. But that really didn't change the people of Zimbabwe in any way. All I did was add knowledge, okay? Talk about hypertension and say, these are the mechanisms, this is what happens and things like that. But it really didn't change much, and it didn't cause an extra income stream in my life. Maybe I got a grant and an extra money stipend for this particular grant, but that's not the game. So that was Education 3.0. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to you that the new approach is that we are not training you to become employees. We are training you to become employers, to cause industry in Zimbabwe. You'll see as I talk. No one is going to come and build our industry. All of us here in the health industry, nobody is going to come and build it for us. Forget it. It's not going to happen. If anything, they will come and collect resources. They'll come and collect the data and take it to their countries and make their own industries. So if we continue to be thinking in the model of getting employed, we will be employers for other people. We will cause their industry. You will see some of the things, as I will show you, will cause their industries to develop, while our own doesn't. So the university has a strategic plan. I hope all of you, I'll try and post it on your group so that you have access to what this strategic plan is. We want a different type of a graduate. a graduate who will make things, who will provide services, and that Zimbabwe will develop. The country also, I'm sure by now you've heard of NDS1. There's a national strategy. As a university, this is what we want to become. Recognized as Zimbabwe's global center of excellence in research, innovation, and higher education training. In the strategic plan I just mentioned, there are 7 strategic objectives. In strategic objective 1, you'll find that we say we want to develop and promote a programmatic approach to research, innovation for generation of knowledge, products, goods, and services that respond to the needs of industry, commerce, and society. That's initially in our own country. Now, you will say, why am I telling you this? Because some of you right now, we had a student last week saying, oh, I want to do a study, I want to do a prevalence study and things like that. There's nothing wrong with prevalence studies. But ladies and gentlemen, if it does, whatever it is, if your project, your honors project does not end up with products, goods, or services, you are likely to get less support for that type of thing. So if you read further in the strategic objective, we actually state what we want to do. We want to produce vaccines. I mean, we want to produce medication. We want to produce our own machines in health industry. Now, these are the strategic objectives of the country, NDS1. If you look somewhere in the center there is health and well-being. And you are the people who are going to make sure that Zimbabweans are healthy and well, okay? And we only do that by doing research, innovations, and industrialize things in health. If we don't do that and we continue to import, money goes somewhere. And if we all get this message, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, by the end of my talk this afternoon, I will have convinced you that you must produce a product, good, or service. If you don't do that and we are just learning and wanting to become employed down the road, there's going to be lots of frustration. So we used to have what we call Education 3.0, which was just teaching, research, and community service. And the new government added innovation and industrialization. You will see why. So innovation, we want to create value. We want to create value in things that we are doing. I'm not talking about inventing. Inventing is a different story altogether. What we already have, we want to create value. You see as we go. And we want to set up companies. Okay, I'll show you some of your colleagues who have set up companies. We want to commercialize goods. Your knowledge, what you are learning right now, we just don't want it to be book knowledge and you just cram and pass an exam and we produce this graduate who just knows that this is osmosis, this is a glucose transporter. That's not good enough. We want somebody who is going to cause something, whether it's a different approach to treating a disease or whatever. That's the kind of mindset we are expecting of you. So research is a systematic process of purpose, collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data. Somebody was asking me about 2 days ago, because of the climatic changes that are taking place in the world, including Zimbabwe, we now have lengthened periods of malaria. We now have, I mean, this thing has been happening for many years ago. A lot of years ago, I conducted a study in Marondera, I think 94, 95. And I came with the result. I showed my professor then that, look, I was measuring blood pressures in Marondera. I can't remember whether it was Dombo Tombo. And they said, I saw that almost everyone I measured blood pressure then was hypertensive. And I came back, because that day it was very cold. I think the temperatures were 15 degrees Celsius. I came back, I told my professor that I think environmental temperatures affect blood pressure. He said, no, it's not the case. I asked for permission that I go back and measure the same people on a day when the temperatures were about 25 degrees Celsius. All those guys I measured when the temperatures were low, they were hypertensive. When I measured them, when the temperatures were 25, they were all normotensive. We published that in the Central African Medical Journal. Later, when I started realizing that, yes, temperature actually influenced cardiovascular diseases, I got an intercalated student. I said, go to Pareranyatwa Hospital, look at the medical records. And what this young man found was that during winter periods, many people died. Anyone who had a cardiovascular disease of some sort, high blood pressure, a heart problem, whatever it was, most deaths happened during winter. Now, so if we collect that data, and then what it was happening in Education 3.0 is that we would publish a good paper in some journal, but then what? It would not help the Zimbabwean people. But if we took that research findings to the next level, to the policymakers, and say, this is what should happen to people with cardiovascular disease, we should make sure that they are not exposed to very cold conditions, because it will cause them to get into these situations which can result in death. So why do we do research? Understand a phenomenon of interest and communicate findings to the community. That is important. The community must know, what are you doing this for? But what we've been doing in Education 3.0, we go and collect a lot of data and export it. And those people somewhere, as you will see later, use that data to come up with drugs, to come up with whatever policies that help their people. So these are some of when you're doing cell physiology, I told you of the scientific method where we observe, ask questions, come up with the hypothesis, do the experiment, come up with conclusion, and something like that. So I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that in health, there are many problems in Zimbabwe. There are too many problems that require young people like you who are going to conduct research, who are going to be innovative and come up with things that we can commercialize and cause industry. I estimate right now, I'll show you a slide later, that we are exporting a lot of money for things that we can do. So innovation is creativity that makes economic sense. So you innovate, you produce a prototype, that prototype, you can get a startup and then see how it goes, commercialize whatever product it is, and we end up with industrialization. You will see. I was one of the first people, not first people, but when Macintosh was still there, we still have that old Macintosh somewhere in the Department of Biomedical Sciences Physiology Unit. We had a Mac book, and if you look at the Macs today, those guys at Apple were very innovative. So when you conduct research, which most of you are expected to do, there's something Professor Namo will tell you about invention disclosures. We want you to protect your intellectual property. Okay, it is your idea, it is your knowledge. So you sign this invention disclosure, your team that is involved in this, whatever you are innovating around, and it's filed by the university, and if there is need, it actually gets protected with WIPO or ZIPO and things like that. That's your intellectual property, which we want to protect. So no one is going to steal your idea. Once you have an idea, you want it protected. But before we can get there, you should have prototypes and things like that. So that's the cycle of innovation. I'm going to look at it in a different way. Starting from 4, you have an idea, you want to explore. Maybe the idea comes from a problem you have experienced or have seen, and say, I think I can actually come up with a solution to this problem. You develop your prototype, and that prototype is tested, sent into the market. And if it's a winning prototype, it can be commercialized. You must produce whatever it is. Now, the reason why some of you may say that's not what used to be like, because some of you are still applying, saying, I want to study medicine at first year. There's no medicine at first year. There's no medicine at second year. There's no medicine at third year, including dentistry. Because in the strategic plan, the university said, no, we want to produce clinicians who are scientists, who think like scientists. That's the reason for the biomedical sciences degree. So if you finish your BMS third year and you are not thinking like a scientist, you are not asking questions like a scientist, wanting solutions, problems. We want to have clinicians. So that's why our medical training and dentistry training is about 6 years. There's some things which we wanted our students to know. We noted that many people were coming into Zimbabwe, collect our data, and go and make money out of our own data. So we introduced the bioinformatics degree and things like that. That's the idea. And all the equipment we use in health, we import them. So that was the reason for setting up the biomedical engineering degree, which I hope some of the students who said yesterday they are in part 4, if we graduate you and you have not made any medical device or something like that, chances are you will not be graduated. We will not graduate you if there's no product which you have made, because what are we doing all these years? Because we're not trying to make technicians who are going to be repairing hospital equipment, repairing other people's equipment. We want you to make equipment. All that physics, all that electronics, whatever you are learning right now, and the physiology, the anatomy, the whatever, the idea is that you make equipment. Okay? It doesn't matter at what level, but make equipment, make devices. We should be putting surgical gloves years later. Because if you work with the pharmacist and you know that there is this plant which we can get rubber out of it, let's make our own gloves. Why are we importing them? And then we came up also with another degree program, the drug discovery, because we said we want Zimbabweans to make their own drugs. I mean, why should we continue to import? Why can we not make our own drugs? So the reason for that degree program. The clarion call is, if we are going to develop as a country, we must make things. We must manufacture. We must industrialize. An excess of $400 million is used to import medicines. Add to these consumables, machines, etc., add up to more than $1 billion. Imagine what this could be used for locally. We are importing bandages. We have lots of cotton. We are importing sutures. There is iron and whatever, stainless steel. Test kits, pregnancy test kits. We are importing them. You guys do your immunology and you know how a pregnancy test kit works. Whatever kit you have had at the hospital, we are importing it. Surgical instruments, we are importing them. We are importing IV fluids. Well, even the WHO is talking the language of innovation because they realize that, if you continue to give these guys, they will never think. We need to start thinking. We need to start coming with solutions to our own problems. When COVID happened, some of you remember that the rest of the world closed their borders. So if you are importing medication from those countries with their borders closed, what is going to happen to your people? So we cannot afford to keep falling into that same trap. We need to make our own things. Now, some of you have phones, whatever, these smartphones. So if you look at that, I have walked so many steps. My oxygen saturation is this. My blood glucose concentration is that. Some of the apps can actually measure your blood pressure, your ECG, and things like that, and heart rate variability. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is someone somewhere with their servers collecting a lot of data throughout the world. And if the average Zimbabwean walks maybe 2,000 steps per day, so they're going to say, guys, pharmaceutical industry, your drugs for the metabolic syndrome target Zimbabwe. They are selling this data to pharmaceutical industry that Zimbabwe is going to be having this type of problems. These apps that you have on your computer, that you sleep so much time and this thing so much time, someone is collecting that data. So there is nothing that stops us from innovating in mental health. Some of you know about Professor Chibanda. Is a mental health, a psychiatrist. He innovated around mental health, the friendship bench. This is a novelty in the world that Zimbabwean innovated this thing to help people with mental health, that you don't have to have psychiatrists everywhere. Peers can actually help others. So it's an innovation. You can read about it. I went to their website, friendshipbenchzimbabwe.org. You will find Professor Chibanda is one of our professors in psychiatry. And this is an innovation. And there is some professors in the surgical department. This is what they found. But the problem is, at the time it was published or perish, they didn't commercialize their findings. Now, a lot of HIV research is taking place in Zimbabwe. You can actually see the publications, they are all over. Now, ladies and gentlemen, all these publications, this company has come up with what they call the Samba machine. And I want you to listen. Some of the work was done in Zimbabwe. Some of the work was done in sub-Saharan Africa on HIV. Now, these professors from other countries, I want you to see what they've done. And also, I want you to note that every consumable that is mentioned in there is not manufactured in Zimbabwe. Right now, as Zimbabweans, we have to be buying all that.
Mother infecting the baby with HIV. Samba testing can prevent this.
Samba technology means fast, effective management of disease for patients.
I use to prickle, we import. Those machines, we import. Those, we import. So some
When
of
we
you
invented
who are
Samba,
doing
the
laboratory
purpose
sciences,
is really to bring the much needed diagnostics to the developing world, and where we can really diagnose the diseases at the point of care. We knew what we wanted to do couldn't be done in industry. So we left rather successful careers for University of Cambridge and to develop a technology that would take a very long time, face many, many failures along the way.
DRW is unique for two reasons. The first is they have a founder and a team that is completely committed to doing good. They've coupled that with a very creative technology that can provide a low-cost diagnostic intervention, which can have an impact on a very large number of people around the world.
DRW has two facilities, one in Silicon Valley in California, where we produce high-quality test kits at high quantity.
so they produce them and export to Zimbabwe.
And also here in the UK, we have a facility where we do the final quality testing of the Samba instruments and the test kits. We have an extensive network of partners to help us produce the instruments at high quantity.
To increase the production capacity, we decided to build some custom automation. This should give us an increase in capacity of around about 10 times on what's being currently achieved.
One of the strengths of our technology is that we've taken on all the complexity in-house. And that has allowed us to create a product for Africa which is heat stable. And we've accomplished this by dispensing our reagents into liquid nitrogen and then freeze drying them.
The Samba test was developed specifically for resource-limited settings. Therefore, the cartridges contain everything that's required for the test. The tests are performed with a simple, single drop of blood or plasma.
Well, Samba can become a game changer for HIV because the Samba technology offers the possibility of fast identification of patients and then the ongoing management of disease. That's critically important because we know we have many of the treatments available, but we need to deploy those treatments effectively. Samba can help do that.
The handling of the machine is simple. It uses a tablet which is connected with the Bluetooth. That's where we put in information. It has 4 sets of cartridge per kit, which are loaded into the sample.
When interpreting the Samba results, there's one cartridge which shows the results. When you see 2 lines on the cartridge, it means the results are above 1,000 copies per mil, which means the patient will be deteriorating. The results are not good. Then if the cartridge shows 1 line, it means it's below 1,000 copies per mil. Then we have every reason to be happy. Treatment is going smoothly. So that's how we interpret our results.
I'm Maiwangwe Chuma. I'm from here in Kwekwe. I'm 19 years old. I was sick and I was taken to the hospital and I'm tested positive. It wasn't easy for me to accept. I now have 6 years on that. Now, viral load become TNT, target not detected. So now the virus is now suppressed. I know I want my babies to not become positive. I see my future is going to be good.
Before, the results took about 1.5 to 2 months to come back to the client.
Now, just a day, then I'll come and collect my results.
It's so crucial for the patients to get the viral load quick. It creates a bond between us and patient. When we don't have the results, there will be a friction between us. The client will come 3-4 times and not get the results, and that won't be good. So I would like to appreciate that very much.
I want to thank you for these machines, for the technology, and keep bringing more for us in the community. Thank you.
Pakatestwa mwanangu akabuda results ake akabuda ipapo results ake ari negative. Vakaitwa zvandakaitirwawo inini. Vakaitwa results kuvana vavo sezvakaitirwawo mwana wangu inini.
So far chirwere changu chatodzika chaizvo nemhuri yangu, saka tongoramba tichingoya kuno kuti chiti ngavaramba vachingotibatsira. Nade wangoramba vachitibatsira kudaro kana nyika yedu yonsewo tobatsirikana sekubatsirika kwandiri kuita inini tofunga.
Every time we make Samba component, I imagine mothers carrying their babies. They are our inspiration to make good quality Samba products.
Well, I can continue. Now, I need a bit of feedback to hear what you guys think. I mean, there's nothing wrong with these guys making the Samba machines. They'll continue to make them. They actually have made HIV, COVID testing machines. We import the test kits. So the consumables, it's almost like having a printer. You still have to keep importing the cartridges. Now, let me hear comments from what do you think? Is this the direction we should get to 2030? Let me just have 2 comments, then I'll continue with my lecture. Are you not able to talk? Edwin, can you make people talk? Guys, you can unmute yourself. I just need some comments. Hello? Is this the kind of direction you want us to continue? You're going to get your degree in optometry, you get your degree in medical laboratory sciences, biomedical sciences, radiography, whatever. Should we be on this path? Should we not be making our own things? Because whatever product you are seeing there, it costs money. And we have to be buying it. And if our health system is going to be different by 2030, it means you guys, your mindset has to be different. Anyway, so when you do whatever, it can be protected. Professor Namo talked to you about intellectual property. We have a young lady. She studied computer science. She got a master's in electronic I think they call it mechatronics or something like that. And that's a innovation, a smart blind stick, which can help the patients to locate where they are going and things like that. She did that. And there's nothing that stops you, those in physiotherapy, occupational therapy, whatever, coming up with that. Nurses, this kangaroo thing which you hear about, it's an innovation which people saw that it works. And there it is. This professor in pediatrics, Prof. Natu, presented in the early 90s a once daily deep intramuscular gentamicin versus an 8-hourly intravenous. The result was saving of manpower. You didn't need more nurses to be pricking these children over and over again. So it changed clinical practice. There's lots of young people in pharmacy doing their honors projects, and they come up with all these plant extracts which do all sorts of things. I know my colleague, Professor Tagwire, has been working on Buffen distica, the plant you see there, for years. He has come up with this drug, which is trying to get it registered with the Medicine Control Authority of Zimbabwe. We can produce these things, ladies and gentlemen. We can produce drugs. That's another colleague, Professor Dr. Taderera. This plant can lower blood glucose. Guess what? I mean, she did this for a PhD. Imagine if this thing gets commercialized. But the problem is, once you publish it like this, someone somewhere, there are people who are employed to be checking what has been published. If they see this, they quickly take it to industry and they start manufacturing whatever. And once it works, Zimbabwe will be importing the drug. Another, this a neurologist, a student doing MED, came up with this way, which is excellent in surgery. It helps, minimizing the extent of debridement. But I think I never saw the publication. I looked for it. I know it's there somewhere at the medical school, filed in some. That was Education 3.0. That's what it was causing us to do. There are all kinds of things, ladies and gentlemen, that you can do. They don't have to be this high level, the omics and the molecular technology. It can be as simple as the malaria. Malaria is still a problem today in the world. And I told you that it's becoming even worse because of the climatic changes. Are you telling me that you guys can't think? Some of you did biology at A-level. You were told about pheromones and things like that. Is there no way of having these pieces of equipment in all the villages and where it attracts the mosquito and the mosquito gets zapped? You are using solar to charge whatever it is that zaps them. It is going to need young people like you to think. If you guys don't think, innovate, and come up with solutions, we are going to continue to have the malaria problem. And by the way, I forgot to tell you that we are importing HIV testing kits. I was speaking to one of the PhD students in pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences. I think she's one of your teachers. And she said to me, Prof, we are having all the cosmetics. And so I said, can you not come up with a drug, nanotechnology, where instead of people taking blood glucose lowering, whatever, you actually apply a lotion and whatever drug it is just goes through the skin. She said it's possible to go through about it, but I hope some of you will think around that. Some of this may look like it's a high-end type of research, innovations, but let's start where we are. Let's start exactly where we are. And by the way, I forgot also to mention, you may need to work interdisciplinary. Someone in biomedical sciences may have certain competencies which you may have to talk to someone who's doing computer science to program this thing for you that can do whatever. But if you work alone, one knowledge, you may not come up with whatever. The vaccines, I mean, before COVID, we were told it takes minimum 15, 18 years to come up with these things. But it took 1 year because some people had already innovated around the messenger RNA. Surgical procedures, you will, by now, I mean, I know women in the past, when they were doing these C-sections, you'd cut from one end to the other end. But now, it's not like that. There's laparoscope surgery. If you come to the main campus, University of Zimbabwe, if you are driving through the Churchill Gate, to your left is the laparoscopic center. If one of its kind, there are only 2 of those in Africa. We have it. And young people who are interested in surgical disciplines can innovate around that, whether they are doing nursing, surgical nursing, or it's medicine, or whatever. There is opportunities for people to think outside the box. I saw this where in cases where the patient who has had this huge traumatic event cannot get immediate surgery, you can actually put them in a place where you lower the body temperature to that. A certain student, I can't remember this, Norway, fell into, it was a medical student, fell into ice, was covered by ice. By the time they got to her, stopped breathing, heart stopped and everything. And they took her to the medical school and they slowly raised the body temperature. She's alive today. And that is being used by certain soldiers in the world to move soldiers from active zones who have been injured, and they lower the body temperature until they get to places where they can be operated. Ladies and gentlemen, the glucometers, the heart rate monitors, the pacemakers, the whatever, you guys, please don't just learn the programming, the whatever, just for the sake of getting a degree. You can actually come up with these things. Anyone who is thinking outside the box, who can demonstrate that here is my prototype, here is something that can measure blood glucose. I mean, I am telling you that you do that, yeah, you be an employer, not an employee. An area of medicine, which is big deal now. Someone last year was making a presentation at the annual Medical Research Day. They were measuring the type of flora, the microbes you find in someone who's HIV positive, someone who's HIV negative, and things like that. So there is certain microbes that are protective. At the moment, we are importing these things. But I don't understand that those of you who are doing some form of microbiology, are you telling me that we can't isolate these microbes, culture them, package them, and sell them? Because this is a new area. If people with certain non-communicable diseases, the microflora within their gut is different from people who are normal. People with diabetes, I mean, there is certain differences. You know, I don't know whether I told you when you're doing your self-physiology that it takes about 3 days for people to figure out what bacteria has infected this person who has sepsis. Now, imagine we have somebody who has come up with an innovation. I don't know whether it's a sequencing machine. We have lots of sequencing machines lying idle, or it's an animal that can smell, and once it behaves in a certain way, it confirms that it's that particular microbe. Walk into a hospital blindfolded. There's a certain smell that tells you I'm in the hospital, even if you are blindfolded. Those smells can actually be used as markers for certain diseases, but it requires you guys to think. So you can have innovations in all sorts of areas. Many years ago, we used to have a Professor Levy who came up with the Harare shunt that for children with hydrocephalus, there was a shunt that would be inserted to drain the cerebrospinal fluid. That whole knowledge is gone. We are having to import the shunts. I can't remember what a neurosurgeon told me, whether it's 110, 120. Something we can make here, but we are importing. There's a nurse who came up, Dr. Ndaimani, with a risk predicting monitoring tool that children, this is whatever, I think it was a chart which you could use to predict risk of health issues to children. He published it, you can find it online. I am trying to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, those countries we are importing from, they prioritize their own people. If you and I don't conduct research, innovate, commercialize our prototypes and cause industry, we are going to continue to import. So the opportunities to conduct research are there. I mean, there are teaching labs, and your teachers, they have their labs where you can conduct. You now have access to the whole university. Depending on what you want to do, there is access. And it is smart to do interdisciplinary research. Ladies and gentlemen, you can develop your vaccine. But as you all know, during COVID, in other parts of the world, maybe including Zimbabwe, some people refused to take that vaccine. You will need a social scientist for that vaccine to be taken. Engineers, you guys doing the biotechnology, I'm telling you, you can make that piece of equipment. I'll show you some pieces of equipment later. If you don't work with people in the arts who know how to make it look nice, like what Apple did, that machine may not go far. It will have all these wires around and you'll never go anywhere. But anyway, if you come up with innovations and you can demonstrate a prototype, we don't want ideas that are in your head or written on paper. We want to see a prototype. If you can demonstrate a prototype, right now the faculty received money from the Directorate of Research, Innovation, and Industrialization. If you go to our faculty research manager, who's Professor Gutsira was talking to yesterday, and say, Prof, here is a prototype of an idea. There is nothing that stops that thing getting funded. And better still, it can receive more funding from government if everyone says this is an excellent innovation. So there is the innovation hub. All that happens here is really trying to connect innovators with all the resources they need to make sure they develop their prototype to commercialization. Because like I said to you, we want you to make money. We want you to cause industry. So I don't know that she's connected. Zoa, she's one of the students, biomedical engineering. They came up with this pediatric incubator, and she was showcasing it. I think I have another picture of her. She was showcasing it at our Research, Innovation, and Industrialization Week some year or two ago. That's Dr. Chifamba from Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. He has all kinds of creams and lotions. They make them. There is nothing that stops you, ladies and gentlemen, from thinking and innovating. That's Professor Chirenje. They've done all kinds of work on women's health, cervical cancer, and things like that. My thing is, up to today, I'm hoping that some of you who are listening are going to come up with a way to test cervical cancer. He did it. I mean, there's something, the pap smears and things like that, way back, where you can test, but we are looking at you today. That is, there's something that some of you can take. So work with other people, because if you are going to be distributing drugs to remote areas, you will need some of these guys who can make drones. And I'm sure by now you know what drones can be used for in health. This machine you see written suction machine was made by a technician. This guy does not have a degree. I will be surprised if he has O levels. He made this suction machine. It was tested at Chitungwiza Hospital. It works very well. It can be used for suction fluids in dentistry and whatever. It works. It can be done. All we have asked him is that now let's make it look nice, okay? Let's make it look nice and put digital instead of these things that move around. To the other side, you see those swabs. So a girl doing optometry, she was doing audiology. She came up with these swabs, COVID swabs, because she says, we have cotton in the country. What stops us making our own swabs? So she made the swabs during the COVID time. And another one was, I think this guy was from agriculture, and there was a pharmacy student, and they came up with these moringa capsules. So there are all kinds of innovations, from product innovation, process innovation, social innovations, business models. The thing I want, because we are talking about commercializing whatever products we produce, guys, you will need to work with your colleagues who are in the business school, who are learning there, who are doing accounting, who are doing economics and things like that, for them to help you. How do I package whatever in terms, so that I make money out of it? So in product innovations, you can come up with a new diagnostic product to diagnose a disease. If there is no new product, just make the ones that are already there. Let's make glucose testing kits. Guys, let's make those. Whatever test kit you know of, don't go and invent another one. Just start by making what is there already. So let's innovate around that. Now I have found a solution of making this in Zimbabwe. I can now test for this bacteria in Zimbabwe. I know of a professor who in hematology is talking about the pineapple juice, what it can be used for in hematology, whatever. You guys doing medical laboratory sciences, let's come up with our own resources, guys, our own consumables. Let's stop just importing everything and everything. Even the A-levels are still importing litmus paper. Vaccines, let's produce. I mean, where those in veterinary science, cows are dying. We know the theory, but somehow something stops us from making things. Let's make vaccines. And the plant extracts, we have lots of them. The process reduction in costs. Can you imagine if someone is taking antihypertensive medication and your research shows that actually if they take this pill at this time, the pharmacokinetics causes it whatever. Think through, guys. Instead of them taking a pill in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, we can have a multi-pill. But you'll have done the work where you have checked the pharmacokinetics and whatever. Is it possible that you can come up with solutions? Social innovations. I was listening to these guys making a presentation on some of the COVID things. They found how people, you needed to innovate around getting people to get COVID vaccines, to put on masks and things like that. There is all kinds of opportunities, colleagues, from these innovations, social innovations. You can come up with, I mean, I told you about me measuring blood pressure in Marondel. This grandmother, I told her that, hey, go, you have high blood pressure. She looked at me and said, Manang, you traveled all the way from Harare to come and give me high blood pressure. I realize we are not communicating. Is it possible? Some of you are doing health promotions, education. We are not packaging this thing well. Is it possible that you guys can package the message so that people don't just drink antihypertensive medication and then they stop? So they default, end up with heart attacks and things like that. Is it possible that you can explain to them in the language they understand why they should take antihypertensive medication? Is there a young person listening to me right now who can innovate that if we package our message this way, we are going to have the impact we want? And I told you about the business people. So your innovation, you want to make money out of it. We go through all kinds of stages in prototype development. Whatever innovation you have come up with, you cost it, the market research, pre-launch, and all sorts of things. We help you to get that. There are people with all those competencies to help you to get that. And if you think there is some competence that we need, we don't have. Maybe you've finished your training as a drug discoverer and say, no, I need to go and train for this. We are looking for people like that. Because there are certain competencies that we don't have. People have moved, died, and all sorts of things, and we need those competencies. So, yeah, that's the innovation space. There is laboratory spaces in departments and faculties. There is, if you come to the innovation hub behind, we're building what we call a technology development center where there will be all kinds of pieces of equipment. And some of you who have been to the university agro-industrial park, you'll be amazed what is there. We have built an agro-processing plant. We are building a pharmaceutical plant where we want to make drugs, want to make IV fluids there. And there's a biotechnology, something which is also being built. So there's an industrial park. Also, there's an industrial incubation center at, what do you call it? At Masasa, where if you have an idea and it passes all the prototype, the commercialization, you can have space to do. So these are some of the products which your colleagues, mostly in agriculture, have come up with. What you see is they've come up with baobab, whatever. There's lots of vitamin C. There's someone who's talking about essential oils. She's making money and selling those products. At the bottom there is this innovator. She says any fruit that you eat can be used as cosmetics. It can be applied on your skin. So she has all sorts of cosmetics, and she was telling us that, what is that, February 14, Valentine, whatever, hey, baobab, something, made lots of money, everything gone. So same products to the right, they have all kinds of products. Ladies and gentlemen, you can do it. And the thing that is written Prinko there is just opposite. The plant is opposite the pharmacy and drug discovery department. There is a young lady in nutrition. She also did physiology. She came up with the crisps that use sorghum and stuff like that. And 150,000 US dollars later, the government of Zimbabwe, through the university, bought a piece of equipment. The others were doing soups. Those are sorghum pastas, the multigrain, and there is bread. If you have not heard about it, some of you in race, chances are you are eating that bread. Bread out of mbambaira, sweet potato, carotene containing. There is cooking oil coming from the agro-industrial park. So there are other people who have stepped out and they are causing industry. They stock feeds after they've squeezed whatever oil from the sugar beans or whatever, they make that paste is used for making stock feeds. And that stock feeds is used to feed. There's something like 20,000 chickens, which those in race, I think you eat them there. Yeah. All those things you are seeing, there are other people, mostly in the Faculty of Agriculture, Environment, and Food Systems. The students there have moved to the next level. And I'm hoping that you guys can also be motivated to say, Prof, we want to make things. We want to come up with solutions to the problems that exist in our country. There is ZOA with their innovation. And when you make presentation, when you show your prototypes, and I think the Vice Chancellor wanted her to travel to Belarus to go and see some of the biomedical or something. I don't know where she was when the trip was organized, but this is what happens when you come up with your innovations, prototypes, you showcase them, people get interested, they look for funding for you to develop whatever it is that you want to do. I say to her, you can make money. I know you have not finished your training. I bumped into a mother at university and I said, you can make money. Tell her that she can make money. But if she wants to go and be employed, it's okay. But if she manufactures these things for Zimbabwe and for the region, come on, man. I was in Thailand a month or so ago and I saw these things. I said to myself, okay, one of these days in Zimbabwe, we will innovate around cannabis because it's known to have neurological benefits. And I was traveling, I saw all this. Said to myself, if our guys don't think, watch this, you are doing environmental science and whatever, I want you to see this. If you guys don't innovate, the choleras and whatever, how do they go away when you have something like this? First of all, the problem is to get the mango to that. But they could have chopped it into small pieces, dried it, and sell it in periods when there's no mangoes. But it requires, our communities don't think like that. It requires you guys to come up with solutions that will help our society. I traveled to the rural area. I'm still talking to this environmental, whatever, who are doing this program. Look at that. The Blair toilet has taken us many years. It has worked, it's good, it's great. But guys, come on, man. We want to make industries in rural areas. We can't be using that. So when I went online, I found that in some places there's no water usage, but there's some gas that is generated that can be used somewhere. Look at that. This happens when around. Don't tell me there are no graduates there around. They are, but it's because they are not being innovative and thinking, what can we do? So the university, there's also a big hospital, which is called a Queenary Hospital, which is being built at the agro-industrial park. There's going to be oncology, cardio, there's going to be public health labs and things like that. Something is happening. We will need some of you who are thinking like innovators and industrialists to manage some of these things. So think about your degree program, studying optometry, biomedical sciences, radiography, medical laboratory sciences, pharmacy, drug discovery, whatever degree it is. I want you, while we do this course, for you to be thinking, what is it that can be commercialized? What innovation can I come up with in my discipline that can be commercialized and lead to some of those medications we put in our eyes, or that in optometry, what they used to. I asked an optometrist when he was fixing my glasses, I said, so where do you get that chemical? Says, we import it. And I said, but we have chemists in Zimbabwe. Can our chemists not think? You will need to work interdisciplinary. Certain things you may not have the competencies, but you may need to ask a biomedical engineer. A nurse should be able to talk to a physiotherapist and say, can we come up with this? I forgot to bring it. I wanted to bring it. I traveled to the US one time and I went to this factory. They make these straps. And I asked, I said, how much is this strap? They actually have protected it, IP protected. I'll post it on your group, WhatsApp group, IP protected. And they said, oh, no, it's about $50. And I said, wow, our physiotherapists can actually do this. But all people are stuck with, oh, this is the gastrocnemius muscle, and you are stuck. You are just memorizing things, but you're not thinking that I can actually make money out of this knowledge. Thank you very much. Questions? It was an old person talking to you, hoping that you guys will be encouraged to begin to do things. Any question? You are posting. Where do we start from if you have an innovation idea? So you initially do it yourself. You just do whatever. If you want lab space, you can talk to any of the departments. If you don't find the proper help you want, you can always come to the Innovation Hub. They will tell you where exactly to go. But don't we also need to explore the environment if it favors innovation? There will never be a good environment that favors innovation, my friend. And when I was growing up, when I was small, we used to see these Chinese products that will last very short. But today they are champions, and most of the things we import from there. So you start from somewhere. And for the environment to be okay, you create it yourself. If you join in the complaints and whatever, what is going to happen, colleagues, is that the world does not stop moving. My first question was, do you want to be an employee or an employer? And if you want to be an employer, you will have to think differently. The negatives, there are many around, but my suggestion to you is make lemonade and move on. Make the bandages. We are importing hypodermic needles. Make the hypodermic needles. If there are no questions, I'm sure we can end. Any more questions? Hello? You are typing, is it because you can't? I once went out there and they directed me back to our department. So the Innovation Hub does not have drug discovery experts. The experts are at the department. So unless you are saying the department is refusing to help, which is not correct from what I heard, because on Saturday there was a workshop where the Vice Chancellor said, I expect innovations from every department. So all departments want to come up with innovations. So I don't think they'll chase you. If they did, go back. If they chased you, come back to me, then I'll talk to them. Are we okay? Yvonne, I know you import that, whatever. Okay, unless there's anything else, have a good day. Thank you very much.